Our top story here at 4:30. It is no secret education issues took up most of the conversation during this last legislative session, and that meant one of the governor's top priorities did not get very far, and that's tax cuts.
Our Capitol reporter Haley Wager tells us more about the state's budget, while there's still a possibility of lawmakers heading back to the Capitol.
Rumors of a special session on tax cuts are circling around the Capitol, but we're digging into the state's finances to see if that's really something we can afford at this point.
The people need to know where we are financially.
Billions of dollars in the state's bank account.
Whenever that we see numbers like $9 billion that are out there, that would be looking at every nickel and every revolving fund. And
Senate Budget Chair Roger Thompson explains just because there's money in these revolving funds doesn't mean it's at our disposal to spend on just anything. One example is the Rainy Day Fund, which holds a little over $1.2 billion.
And the only way we get to that is bad things happen.
There's also hundreds of millions set aside each year for education and medical expenses. So when it's all said and done, the state is looking at about $2 billion on hand left over to spend.
But keep in mind, we're a $30 billion a year business in Oklahoma. And so having a little cash on hand is not a bad deal for us.
The big question looming, do we have enough in the bank to cut taxes?
And so before we start talking about cutting our revenue, we need to say, what's our expenses for this next year? What it's going to be going forward.
There's still questions on the impact inflation will have in the next year, and we really have no way of knowing how much extra cash we'll be sitting on in years to come.
If you do a tax cut, it's an ongoing expense. You don't use one-time money for ongoing expenses.
If lawmakers are called in for a special session, Senator Thompson says they'll look at all their options, but want to make sure they're making the best decision for Oklahoma taxpayers.
We want to be methodical and very decisive as we move forward with our finances to make sure we continue to deal with policy and not politics.
Haley Wager, Oklahoma's own News 9.